In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In the season of Advent, it's a tradition in the church to have a theme for each week, as we light the candles, perhaps, or in your home devotions. Does anybody remember what last week, the first week of Advent, is? Hope. And how about today? Peace. Peace. And while today's readings are about comfort and preparation, and the psalm appointed, which I fully recommend for your personal devotion, says that God will proclaim God's peace, it's kind of a strange idea of peace and comfort. What do you think of when you think of peace or comfort? What's a way that you have found comfort in this hard year, or a time when you have felt peace? I think about the last kind of big trip I did before the pandemic, standing on the Central California coast with a dear friend looking at whales. Oh. Or I think of little moments, like before my kids get up in the morning and I'm having that first cup of coffee by the Christmas tree. Peace. Did you imagine mountains crumbling in an earthquake? No? Did you imagine being confronted by a stranger yelling mean names at you and telling you to change your life? No? Yeah, me neither. This is a weird vision of peace. Now, when we look at what the scriptures say this morning about comfort, about peace, peace is a little more complicated, a little rougher, maybe, more transformative, we would hope. But we certainly see that peace isn't something that arrives after everything has settled out, when the noise and the imperfection is gone and everything is already peachy. Peace isn't a prize that we get for being calm. No, peace comes to us now, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the chaos. We heard from the prophet the declaration from God to speak tenderly to Jerusalem. That word, tenderly, I can't say it without doing this. Tenderly. Here, it's actually a change in the translation from Hebrew. More often in the Old Testament, tender, that word, is actually translated to see the heart of a person, or the whole of a person. So the prophet is saying, speak to the whole of the person, to the heart of them, comfort. And when we hear God speaking tender comfort to us, comfort to the deepest part of who we are, we can't stay the same. When we hear God's words of comfort and peace, that comfort and that peace changes us. And it should be no surprise to Christians that the promises of God always come with a challenge too. Because this peace is not only for us. God's peace comes to God's people so that we might become peacemakers. We are nourished with comforting words right to the truest part of who we are so that we can get ourselves to work, preparing the way. In fact, Mark's gospel says that the beginning of the good news that God has come to us, the beginning of the good news of Christmas, starts out there in the wilderness with a waymaker, a wild man, saying hard words, calling for change. We can look for other examples. John the Baptist, the prophet Isaiah, and today also the feast day of St. Nicholas. I don't know that St. Nicholas and St. John the Baptist would have been good friends, but I do think St. Nicholas was on to the idea of a transformed life. Yes, old St. Nick was really a church bishop in the 6th century, and our tradition has beautiful stories of tales of courage and generosity as he cared for children and the poor, as he stopped violence in his community. We look to the examples of Nicholas and John and Isaiah and others, all the saints really, to see a life impacted by God's peace is a life that brings peace. A life that is touched by God's hope and love is a life that is transformed to bring hope and love. That's what we hear when protesters chant out in the streets, no justice, no peace. They don't want a cheap peace. They want transformative peace that starts in justice in a changed world where all can flourish. So this is an uncomfortable comfort. It's a comfort that is wrapped up, completely enmeshed with a call to action, a gift with a challenge. We receive the presence of God, and then we are transformed by God so that we might transform the world around us. But this transformation, this hard challenge that calls us to impact the world, does start right here, tender, the heart of who we are. When we are peacemakers, we can take on, in the heart of who we are, these hard and challenging things in the world around us and transform them in ourselves. The poet Mary Oliver sees this transformation as close as our breath in her poem, Wage Peace. Wage peace with your breath. Breathe in firemen and rebel. Breathe out whole buildings and flocks of red-winged blackbirds. Breathe in terrorists and breathe out sleeping children and freshly mown fields. Breathe in confusion and breathe out maple trees. Breathe in the fallen and breathe out lifelong friendships intact. Wage peace with your listening. Hear sirens, pray loud. Remember your tools: flower seeds, clothespins, clean rivers. Make soup, play music, learn the word thank you in 3 languages. Learn to knit and make a hat. Think of chaos as dancing raspberries. Imagine grief as the outbreath of beauty or the gesture of fish. Swim for the other side. Wage peace. Never has the world seemed so fresh and precious. Have a cup of tea and rejoice. Act as if armistice has already arrived. Don't wait another minute. In this tumultuous year, a year that has felt like the watch-keeping of Advent for such a long time, it can be hard to really believe in the simplicity of a transformative peace that starts with our breath. It can be hard to look for hope and really know that God is with us. But even in the midst of chaos and pandemic and change, the world has never seemed so fresh, so precious. I know it might be strange for you who are watching this on live stream, and if the choir and my colleagues are game, take a hand and put it over your heart and one on your belly, and you too at home, and take a few deeper than normal breaths. What is God inviting us to breathe in, to transform into peace, and to exhale into this world? What are the comforting, tender words for God, for you this morning? And how is God calling you to take that comfort and become a bringer of comfort, a peacemaker, and a way maker? Friends, as we prepare through this Advent to receive God with us, receive God's peace today. hear those comforting words and don't wait another minute. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.